Hey guys, welcome back to the Guys Network right here on your Lake Fork Guide. We got a brand new episode today, and we got two brand new guests giving us some instructional information to help you guys catch more and bigger bass. And you're probably going to know these guys. That door was a little open, but that's okay. Probably going to know them because they are pretty well known around the YouTube arena these days. Got Mr. Justin, the Rack Attack,
How we doing, Billy?
Lake Fork guy, and fishing with the Nebraska, the Midwestern Madman.
That's me. I like
Andrew
it.
Flair.
That's your name. I like it.
That's kind of like old school Flair, the wrestling.
Yeah,
Flair.
the nature
Ric
boy,
Flair.
Ric Flair.
You would be way cooler if you were kin to him, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Well, hey, we're going to talk about a couple different techniques these guys like to use in the springtime and really year round. So you guys stay tuned. We're going to have some good information right here.
Okay, we're going to talk about one of my favorite ways to rig stick baits, weightless style baits. In the springtime, lots of fish cruising the bank. A lot of fish that you don't see. You'll see sight fish. You can bed fish for them right on the bank, but one of the most popular techniques, if it's really calm or you got a cold front, is to throw a weightless stick bait out there. You throw it around the grass lines or the brush, or even just chunk it behind you when your partner is bed fishing, or if you just want to stay off the bank a little bit, try to get a little bit bigger bite. Really good technique all over the country, but Texas right now, it's a killer. So one of the things that's a problem sometimes when you have a little bit of wind or you're just trying to get that bait a little bit deeper is adding weight to it. So there's ring weights, there's little nails, I've been to the hardware store, done all that kind of stuff, but I found a hook that I really love for particularly like Cinco's, the ring fry, like a 5-inch ring fry, and then a fluke as well. So you can throw a lot of different stick baits. I'm sure everyone has their favorites on there. But this is a UNC, it's a drop dead hook. I'm gonna actually take this out so we can rig this up. But that right there is a elongated shank on that hook, similar to like a swim bait hook, but it's not super heavy. So it's perfect for throwing these lighter baits. It has a built-in weight on the bottom. You can get them in 1/8. I think you can get them a 1/16, and there's one heavier one like that. So they make different ones. But it comes with a screw lock in the front, and the way that hook shank is elongated, it goes to the end of your bait. So Billy, you had some Cinco's around here. You mind if I just rig
get
it
after
out
it,
here?
Make yourself home.
Show everybody what's going on.
It's all about the folks at home, my brother.
There we go, the folks at home, So on this hook, it comes like this. You want to screw lock it up in the front. This is also good because you can get more mileage out of your Cinco's, especially. Everyone complains about losing Cinco's to one fish, but with that screw lock in there, usually you get a few more extra fish because it's not going down the shank and ripping it up as easily. Just kind of pinch that down, go right out the top, and then skin hook it. So that's normally called like weightless Texas style, so without the bullet weight in front, but you have a weight and it's right there on the bottom. It's called a belly weight. It's locked in there really good, it's smooth, and what that does, this is the best thing about it, it not only gives you more casting distance, the bait sinks a little bit better, gives it a really good action. That's the thing. Cinco's and flukes and ring fries already have like kind of a shimmy when they go down, but if you add some belly weight instead of having the weight up front, trust me, it's got the right wiggle. It gets them going. So I threw this in the pool one day and I was like, oh my gosh, having that belly weight is the key. It's easier than throwing nails in there. And you know, wacky rigs is a totally different deal, but this comes through the grass easily, comes through the stumps, all that. It's weedless, and it's just smooth as butter. So that right there is a 5/0 hook with a 1/8 ounce weight on it. It's a VMC drop dead hook, and I keep a bunch of them in the boat.
What talk about the rod and reel line.
Yeah, so everything for throwing, I don't switch that up for the different plastics. Everything is the same for throwing, like flukes, ring fried, all the weightless baits really is pretty similar. I like throwing 16 or 15 pound tests normally, but if I'm out here on fork, it's gonna be 20. Just a safe bet, throw 20. It does have better action the lighter line that you go, but of course you don't want to lose big fish. And I throw a 7.2 medium heavy action rod. You can throw it really good. It's got pretty decent backbone on it where you can still set the hook, but I just feel like that's the perfect action. Actually throwing the LFG series.
Talk about that rod that you got.
Series. This is a rod that just came out, and this is one that I wanted, like a really all-around rod for throwing a bunch of different things, but a lot of weightless.
Anything around that 7 foot medium heavy can do a lot of things.
Dude. Yeah, it's so versatile. So I like a little bit longer than 7 foot typically, unless I'm really up shallow just pitching. But just to get a little extra distance, I like 7.2 or 7.3. So that's a 7.2 medium heavy. I usually throw a high speed gear ratio on pretty much all plastics, just so I can catch up to the fish. If you're throwing out behind the boat, fish eats it, and then it's coming towards you, or vice versa, you can catch up to the fish, you don't lose as many fish. And really, you gotta have fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon's a deal. So I like to use really good fluorocarbon, monofilament floats, and you don't have that like abrasion pop off of fluorocarbon. So that is it. So this is one of my signature series rods by Favorite. This is the LFG Make Every Cast Count Fishing Freak rod. So you can check them out at favorite.com. We've been developing these for a long time, and it's a good all-around rod. So it's the juice for throwing the old weightless baits and a bunch of other stuff, but put it to good
you
use
can do shallow cranking, spinner bait, and that's just a really like if somebody wanted to own one rod and make it a really nice one,
that'd be it.
That's a great rod to own right there.
That's what I tell everyone. Like if you just want to focus on one good rod for the year,
just about anything you want to. You can jig fish with it if you want to.
Actually we caught a lot of big Texas rig fish on it today. Doing the same thing. I like to Texas rig with it too. It's a little soft for bigger jigs, but it's perfect for Texas rigs up to like ½ ounce.
Very good. Well, hey man, appreciate you sharing all that with us. Is there anything special on the retrieve that you do? Yeah,
I guess I didn't really talk about that. The key with this hook though is not overworking it. So I've thrown this in like boat stalls in 30 feet of water and just letting it sink down, and then not even make a twitch or a reel, just literally throw it in there and let it just go down and shake. That's the real key. But you can twitch it and it'll have a nice side-to-side action. It just depends on the time of year, what the fish are doing. I noticed today that when you were bringing it back to the boat, it almost has like a little swimming action to it. The tail kind of kicks around a little bit. Yeah, it's that belly weight. It's the right placement to where when you want to stop it, it's going to fall straight down and have that wiggle. It's not going to nose dive or kind of go off to the side. But it also increases the tail action too. It's the perfect hook if you're throwing. It's a great rig. I've never thrown it like that, so it's awesome, man. And it's easy, and the hookups on it are really, really good. I've noticed that too, because you don't have to go through the shank of the worm. It's a long hook, so it sits far back there on the worm. It's beautiful. Long back there, so fish just right there. You got them, and then you just expose it, and you're good to go. Very good, man. That's awesome. That's a new way. I promise you, I'm gonna be picking some up because it's good, man. That's very, very good. All right, Mr. Flair. That's me. Let's rotate over here, and my boy. I know you kind of have been known over the years to throw a little ChatterBait every once in a while, haven't you?
I toss a ChatterBait here and there. Yeah, that was kind of like my go-to bait, kind of like in high school, first couple of years of college. Like that was just what I loved catching fish on, and it was like it didn't matter where I went in the country, you catch fish on it. So that was caught a huge stack in Mexico. Yeah, recently. Yeah. So
I'm kind. You know, it's kind of funny. I know you have no way of knowing this, but I'm pretty married to it myself. In fact, I'm kind of getting a reputation for only throwing a ChatterBait because I do throw it so much. So yeah, it's a good bait, and it's one of those deals where, you know, the spinnerbait was super popular, so people started adapting to the ChatterBait, and like
still to this day, when I go fish tournaments, everybody's throws spinnerbaits, I throw chatterbaits right behind it, and I tend to catch more fish. And personally, I think you catch bigger fish.
100% agree.
Bigger fish, because here's the difference. And I don't know if we got a spinnerbait handy.
There's one hanging right there on that rail.
Right here. Let's explain something here. This is how I perceive it. I haven't asked Mr. Bass in a few weeks if he perceives it like this, but this is how I perceive it. So right here you have two baits, and to our eyes they look about the same size, but to a fish, that looks like a fish, that maybe looks like a fish, this looks like maybe a couple fish, this looks more like a group of smaller bait fish, like just kind of like an Alabama rig, but just scaled down. This is how I mentally perceive it.
And the one you picked up has a huge blade. That's
yes.
a tweaked version for Lake Fork.
Yes.
Normally a spinnerbait has a much smaller blade, so what you're saying rings very true. So smaller bait fish, a group of them.
When this thing's spinning, it's creating a flash. It just looks like a few bait fish, and the fish just hit the whole thing. They don't have, there's no target. They just hit the whole thing and try to eat as many fish as they can at once. Versus something like this looks like one bluegill, one meal, one big meal. So that's why I'm confident. Not that you can't catch big fish on spinnerbaits, because I've caught my PB on a spinnerbait, a 9.5 pounder on a spinnerbait. So this is more of just like a 9 times out of 10, or just more often than not. I tend to catch bigger fish on this because I think it looks like one big meal versus, you know, a bunch of little small ones. That's just my personal opinion on it. There's guys that catch way bigger fish than me on spinnerbaits, but just day in, day out, especially in the Midwest, this is where you're gonna catch your big fish. And then especially the reason why I like it is because it's a year-round deal. I mean, from the time I have ice out to the time ice up, it's a great cold water bait, it's a great grass bait, it's a great bait to throw in the summer, it doesn't matter. But what I'm gonna talk about today is the different trailers I like to use. Personally, this is my go-to, and it's more of a paddle tail style. Now, a lot of guys like different ones. Some people throw some craws on it. Some people throw some more like fluke style, nothing with a lot of action going back and forth. And I'm going to explain a little bit on what the difference is, in my opinion, and why I choose what I do. So for this guy here, this is my day in, day out deal with a little swim bait. Now, it's not the greatest in the grass because that paddle tail will pick up some grass as it kind of goes through. If you're fishing heavy vegetation, this is not usually your best bet. And as well, if you're trying to skip, it's not your best bet, because when that thing's laying on its side skipping, that tail is going to constantly catch water. So this is not a great skipping bait. This is not a great grass bait. Where I find it working most is around timber and around wood. I think it just has the right shimmy. It looks realistic. Personally, around rocks and timber, this is my go-to, and that's generally what I'm fishing. But if you're fishing grass, this is more what I would choose. Is something like this, and because it's got the tail.
Rack attack?
Yeah, you know about this.
Yeah.
It's got the action. It's obviously got the action, but it doesn't have that tail that's going to catch water. So this thing can just rip right through the grass. So if you're fishing grass or anything, you know, hang-ups, this is usually what I would go to, is something like this, or a fluke, or just something more slender that doesn't have a whole lot of swinging and twirling action like a paddle tail. And then lastly, this guy, which I don't use a ton, this is a craw, and this guy's not super great in grass either. I mean, it's gonna flap around a little bit, but it's one thing I've noticed is it's something different, completely different. So if there's a lot of guys that are throwing chatterbaits where you're fishing, this guy will give it a different look. As well as if I'm ever smallmouth fishing, this dude right here, if I'll throw like a little like brown and orange crawfish or chatterbait, and then get like a brown and orange craw on it, then you kind of just crawl that thing on the bottom. It looks just like a crawfish. So instead of grinding your square bill crankbaits, you throw something like that. It imitates a crawfish, has the vibration, has the feel, and they feel it in their lateral line, but it looks a little bit different. That's my experience with chatterbaits. You really can't go wrong with any of them. I mean, I've caught fish in grass with all three, in rocks with all three, timber all three. But those, if I had to pick one trailer for those situations, that's what I'd go with.
That's good stuff, dude. I didn't even think about the grass.
Yeah.
With the grass thing catching, but you're right.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's good stuff.
Well, there you go, guys. A couple new guests. I'm big fans of theirs and what they do, and we had a heck of a day today.
Great day. Amazing day.
Ended up with 32 pounds.
32
if you didn't
pounds.
check that video out, that video is linked, like, I'll put it above Rackley's head, I think.
There you go.
There you go.
Check it out.
That's the guy right there. So that was an awesome day. We just had today. These guys dropped in knowledge on you. Flair has thrown that chatterbait a bunch. I throw it a bunch, and he got a little bit different take on it. And it's always good to take in as many views as you can and experiment with it yourself and find out what works best for you, because we're all different. We retrieve them different, and the fish are all different. So always good to get a new look. That was a really cool little sneaky.
I'm gonna have to use it. I use the Senko a ton, and I've never done that. So
yeah,
I'm gonna have to try it out for sure.
Easy peasy.
that's probably, if you could only have two baits the rest of your life, it'd be hard to argue against those two that you guys just talked about.
Yep.
So,
Anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the country, ChatterBait, Senko, you're gone.
Great job. Thank you guys. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it. There you go. Left
Double
handshake.
handshake. It was so good today.
Double handshake. Hey, you guys check these guys' channels out. We'll link those below. Fishing with Flair, Lake Fork Guy. Man, y'all are awesome. Appreciate it. You guys, thank y'all for watching. Hey, if you liked it, you know what to do. Hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more, be sure and subscribe. And yeah, I think that'll do it. So we'll see you next time right here on your Lake Fork Guy.
See ya.